Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners YouTube Live, powered by Olipop. Take it away, Parker.
Classic grape tonight, folks. Olipop, the soda that's good for you. Check them out at drinkolipop.com. 16 familiar flavors, but health benefits as opposed to detriments.
There you go. Drink up. Olipop. I've got my handy dandy coffee going, my water. Parker's got his Olipop. We're ready to talk some OU offensive coordinator position. I guess it's filled now by Seth Luttrell and Joe John Finley, and we're going to talk some transfer portal. It's going to be a loaded YouTube live. All right. Anyways, let's dive into it. Oklahoma hired they hired two new offensive coordinators. Sorry, I got a text in the middle of this. Two new offensive coordinators. Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley. Some Oklahoma fans are upset about it.
Many are not. I was surprised. Many were upset about the potential of that hire, but then once it happened, I don't know if everybody read Brent Venables' quotes, and that maybe assuaged some of the alarm, but this has not been met with a ton of criticism today since it was announced earlier this afternoon. Luttrell actually has the title of offensive coordinator. He holds that title altogether. He's going to be the principal play caller. And then Joe John Finley remains tight ends coach, gets the nod as co-offensive coordinator, which is something Oklahoma has done for assistants in the past. I believe Bill Bedenbaugh held that title briefly. And then, of course, you have Luttrell, who is set to coach quarterbacks. And that was maybe the one thing, Brandon, that everybody was more apprehensive about than the rest of the factors involved in this situation. Is, okay, you have a guy in Luttrell who has only ever coached quarterbacks in his career very briefly, and that was in an interim setting in 2020 at North Texas when he had an assistant step down. So he was the head coach and also the quarterbacks coach very briefly there for a few games. But he has never coached quarterbacks at any level outside of that one season where he was on fill-in duty. That said, having talked to folks, and we talked about it on the OU Insider Under the Visor emergency podcast that we dropped last night, having talked to folks around both the Sooners quarterbacks of the present and quarterbacks of the future, the commits, Michael Hawkins, Brendan Zurbrugg, and Kevin Sperry, all these guys are super stoked to work with Seth Luttrell and have no qualms about him coaching quarterbacks moving forward.
Yeah, no, he's, Mitch Trubisky obviously is one of them. He's got a ton of Nick Foles that he's been a part of over the years that have gone on and had success in the NFL and or were very successful in college. So it's, to me, the question, and I was one of them. I'll admit, like if I ever do something, I'll admit it. Like, I questioned, would BVV comfortable with all of that? And he was to the extent that he hired both of them. He named Seth Luttrell his QB coach. More power to him. And at the end of the day, to me, it was the best hires possible, because if you're looking to keep your staff and you're looking to keep the personnel that you already have brought into Norman, and you're looking to keep your recruiting class and not dead the momentum that you have going into the offseason, that you can extend in the transfer portal, this was the right move, particularly short term. Now, long term, it's yet to be seen, but the short term move, this was, to me, far and away the best option. And I know there's people out there like, well, what about the home run hire, Parker? How can we not get a home run hire? Okay.
Don't think like Texas A&M, please.
Right. And I look back at the last, and Parker, you and I discussed this on the phone the other day, and you asked me about the previous offensive coordinator search when Lincoln Riley was hired, Muleshoe. And I went through that, and I was part of the beat at the time and covered it. And, you know, I remember Sonny Cumbie interviewing, and I have some pretty close ties to the Sonny Cumbie side of things. And it looked like he was going to get the job, and then it just like fell off really quickly, and Muleshoe's name got bigger and bigger and bigger. And he wasn't exactly the hottest name on the board. Sonny Cumbie was at that point, because he had elevated him, and I'm trying to remember, the Meacham had elevated TCU and took him on the precipice of the playoffs in 2014. So they were hot. Lincoln Riley was the hot G5 program, but essentially, and Bob Stoops admitted to this, he went through, copy pasted the top 10 offenses in college football, and he started searching to see if those OCs would be interested. And obviously, with Muleshoe's ties to this region, he was very interested. It got him and his family back here for 7 years. He ultimately became the head coach of the University of Oklahoma. All in all, it was a good hire by Bob Stoops. Some people say no. The record and what he was able to accomplish says completely otherwise. So you can be mad about the USC stuff, the lack of loyalty, all that BS. But what he did on the field was a successful hire all the way around. And remember, everybody was, Lincoln Riley was named the head coach directly after, like literally the day Bob Stoops resigns. And everybody's like, what's going on? Like, why would they do that? And why would they not have a search? All that. Bro, 3 playoff appearances later.
Yeah.
Almost you had a run at a few national titles that you should have probably won had you not had a crappy defense. That goes on Lincoln Riley, obviously. But in the end, that was a hell of a hire. And so experience be damned. Like Barry Switzer, 0 experience calling plays in 66. Chuck Fairbanks hired him. Or not Chuck Fairbanks, but I think it was Jim Tatum maybe that hired and then passed away. I can't remember
Jim
who
McKenzie.
it was.
Is that
Jim McKenzie. Jim McKenzie hired, passed away, and then Fairbanks became the head coach. But no experience. He was a damn good offensive coordinator, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
What? It doesn't matter. Like Dabo Swinney had 0 coordinator experience, and he's one of the top coaches in college football.
And here's where I would leave it, Brandon. I would simply say this: Joe Castiglione and Brent Venables, over the course of their respective tenures in their respective positions at the University of Oklahoma, have given you no reason to believe that the hires to which they give their stamp of approval aren't going to pan out, because you can probably count on one hand the amount of bad hires that Joe Castiglione has made across all sports in the 25 years that he's been Oklahoma's athletic director. He has been King Midas with those hires. And Brent Venables, I remember when everybody questioned Miguel Chavis coming over as defensive ends coach. That didn't take long to ebb away. So if you trust Brent Venables, you trust Joe Castiglione, there's no reason not to trust that Luttrell is the right play caller, and promoting Joe John to co-offensive coordinator is going to raise the bottom line for this offense as well. So that we can get this out of the way up front, let's have a quick word from our sponsors here. This live stream is brought to you in part, folks, by Prize Picks, which is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play DFS, because it's just you against the numbers. So instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks like you would on other sites, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 individual player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can also play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz. You can find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. And Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. That's a mouthful. Go to prizepicks.com/insider and use code insider for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/insider and use code insider for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
And guess what? I have to do the Manscape, and I'm looking forward
Don't say
to
you
it.
have to. I offered
I'm
to.
looking forward to it. I think I love these ads. They're hilarious to me. So, Santa Baby, the season for a fresh cut is finally here with sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. The leaders in below the waist grooming have just launched their 5th generation performance package to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom this year. Take care of your special snowflake with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and watch your South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer of all by going to manscaped.com and using promo code OU Insider for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, go to manscaped.com and use promo code OU Insider for 20% off plus free shipping. Miss Claus will thank you, apparently. And look, they also come with like the nose trimmer, the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose trimmer. I've used it. Every man has nasty nose hairs and all that, and no women like that. So there's a lot that you can go on to manscaped.com. All you have to do is type in OU Insider and the promo code, and you get 20% off plus free shipping. Again, 20% off plus free shipping. Say ho, ho, ho to a well-groomed mistletoe with Manscaped. All right. There we go.
All right. All ball for the next
the South Pole part got
plus.
me, man. I'm not going to lie. Because I'm immature.
Ball.
Yep. I am immature.
And
there we go.
Not that kind of ball either.
All right. So
let's
look. What? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think
help me, Parker, help me.
We'll get this thing back on track. I feel like the place to start tonight is probably with the transfer portal, wouldn't you say? Because although it doesn't officially open until December 4th for non-graduate transfers, there are still plenty of guys throughout the week that have been announcing their intentions to enter the transfer portal. And from the grad transfer ranks, guys that already have entered the transfer portal. And OU is going to be a player in the portal market this offseason. We have talked about that in the past. Some of the positions of need include tight end, offensive line, defensive tackle, cornerback. Doesn't sound like the Sooners are going to be opposed to taking another receiver via the transfer portal. So there are, I don't know if you would categorize them as needs. I don't know if there's a position, save for tight end, where you feel like you got to have somebody, but Oklahoma will be looking to bolster the depth at a variety of positions across the board. And we're starting to get an idea of some names that could be in play, Brandon.
Yeah. I mean, look, I guess I would first start, and let me go back in here and look at my handy dandy notes here on all the transfer portal people that I've actually talked to this week, which has been a ton. Trying to think of the the offensive tackle from Michigan State that I reported on earlier this week.
Spencer Brown.
So Oklahoma's in great position there. I straight up talked to him for a good while this week and a few times this week, and he was very, very adamant, like Oklahoma is one of the top schools on his list. Similarly, there's a host of guys. I know that Ashton Cozart entered the portal just a while ago, it looks like. And from that perspective, it seems like, I guess Oklahoma would be in play there. He had a really, really good year for a freshman season. Did you see his stats?
No, what were his stats?
All right, let me look him back up
here.
Oh, here, I got you. He had 33 catches, 582 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He averaged 17.1 yards of reception this week.
Yeah. I did not realize he had seen.
No, like that's the type of guy you want, right? And it's like when you sit back and you look at it, I think he has a girlfriend potentially in Norman, if I remember correctly. I don't quote me on that. I know, I remember hearing about that back.
Cozart didn't appear in a game for Oregon this year.
Then why did somebody tweeted out he had 517 receptions? Who tweeted that then?
I don't know. And maybe
they had a Cozart on there that he had 500 whatever
Maybe that was in reference to his senior year of high school. Who knows? But he did not play for
Maybe.
Oregon this year.
Okay,
I
well,
heard
he
those
didn't
numbers,
play
and I
this.
feel like I feel like I would have known if
Yeah,
asked
I
again.
was shocked when I read them, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. But I didn't watch Oregon a whole lot this year, so I just went, yeah. Somebody quoted the oh well, it doesn't matter. I think they were mistaken. So
Yes.
and I was just reading off the tweet because I was shocked when I read it. Anyways, I guess he would be one, but I just can't see Oklahoma taking he's the type of player that you want, a game breaker with his speed, but I can't see him taking or see Oklahoma taking anybody that isn't like an elite wide receiver, or at least one that they perceive elite. Because I was talking to people about Jaron, obviously,
Jaron Bradley,
yeah, Jaron Bradley today, and they were ultimately just like, Oklahoma's got a lot of people like him on the roster.
Yeah, they do. And
so
I'll read you a text I got verbatim from a source that's as good as it gets. Last Friday with regard to portal wide receivers. BV will only look at bona fide dudes with legit tape at the wide receiver position from the portal. So OU's not taking flyers at wide receiver. And that makes sense when you look at how much depth there is in that room with what they have right now and what is coming in from the recruiting trail. It does not make sense to take, and what's a good recent example? Maybe a guy like LV Bunkley Shelton.
Yeah, wouldn't he take this year?
Yeah, he had been moderately productive at Arizona State. But if it's 2023 as opposed to 2022 and he hits the portal, he's probably not coming to Oklahoma because they're probably not looking his way. They want dudes that have done it at a high level.
They want Evan Stewart.
Well, yeah, wouldn't that?
I mean, that's what they want. A source I talked to today was like, if you want to know what Oklahoma wants, they want an Evan Stewart type. Now, they're not saying, obviously they want Evan Stewart. Everybody in the country wants Evan Stewart, but that's the type of athlete, the type of wide receiver, the type of explosive performance player that they want at that position if they're going to take somebody, because Oklahoma's short on numbers, Parker, like super short on numbers. I don't think fans understand the crunch that they're under right now. Like tight end is a take automatic, offensive tackle automatic, corner automatic, even defensive tackle. Now I expect them to take 1, 2, 3 defensive tackles this portal, but they're going to have to make room for it to take place. Like you got to make room. How they do it, I don't know. Who they take from, I think a prime example of what you saw with Dozie Ezekama this past week, making room. They're making room for things to take place, and it's going to be a super juggling act for Oklahoma to make some of these transfer portal numbers to work out in their favor come January 1st or January 19th when the second semester starts.
And we had a nugget over behind the paywall at OUinsider.com earlier today about a defensive tackle that should he hit the portal, OU would have a lot of interest in. Obviously, until that individual hits the portal, we're not going to disclose his name, but I'll just leave it at this. Probably not that difficult to figure out who we're talking about. And no, it's not DJ Hicks.
It's not DJ Hicks. It's not Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy. Like I dropped that note about around 5:00, and it was just the note I dropped was in the comments of our transfer portal stuff, and then I copied it and pasted it on our wall, just like with the title. Okay, so people could go to it and see the comment, because I didn't want it blowing up, and the people did not want it blowing up just yet for obvious reasons. I spoke to that person's father for over an hour today.
It's a long time.
It was a long time. It was a long conversation. And
did you guys exchange Christmas recipes?
We did.
Nice.
He's more of a ham guy, more of a turkey. I don't know if he was sweet potato. I think he was more of a green bean guy. We kind of agreed. Green beans and bacon. That's the way to go with little
Yeah, that is the way
sugar
to
on
go.
top. Anyways,
No doubt about that.
all right, all right.
We missed a super chat earlier from Mongo, so I want to get back around to it before we get too caught up in Portal talk. He dropped $10. We appreciate you, Mongo. Always consistent with us. And he said, my OU father's shout out this week in honor of Grant Bricks's future career as a truck driver goes out to Marcus Dent. Pretty clever concept by Nebraska in integrating the truck that they infamously parked outside of Grant Bricks's high school in his commitment announcement. That was unique. That was unique. And I tend to believe Grant Bricks's future career is going to be in the sport of football professionally. But he was driving the truck in the video, so I would assume he has a CDL. Who knows?
Who's this? Mongo? Bricks?
Yeah.
I guess maybe.
Amari Abor is a guy that a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers, I should say, are asking about Brandon. And I recall covering that recruitment a little bit, but I also recall you and Colin being more dug into that recruitment than I was. So what is noteworthy about Amari Abor as he gets ready to enter the transfer portal?
I mean, I haven't really dug up on him just because it's an edge, number one. It feels like Oklahoma has like 1,000 edge rushers on roster right now, and they're bringing in what, 2 more, potentially.
Well, none of them. Well, Rondell, I guess.
Yep.
Bothroyd and Stripling are gone next year, but other than that, everybody else is coming back. So you replace 2 with 2, you're not hurting for numbers at the edge.
Yeah, I mean, he loved Oklahoma for the longest time, and what I remember about that recruitment was somebody was supposed to go pick him up, and they didn't. They
right, that was the
left at his
OB that
hotel.
went sideways. I forgot that was Amari Abor.
That it was.
Wow.
Funnier instances ever. So, yeah, I doubt. I just couldn't see that happening. I know Clemson recruited him fairly hard. I think the guy that if there was ever going to be a defensive end that I think they would go after, I think it would be Key Jackson from Ohio State. I do. Like, Oklahoma recruited him out of Chaminade really hard. It was down to OU, Clemson, and Ohio State.
I remember that.
Yeah, and his
that
dad
2022 as well. Was that the 22 cycle?
Yeah. So, that was like the first party in the palace when they did it in 21, when everybody came in, and we're champion when they brought in all the Lamborghinis and all that crap, when Travis brought on all those cars. So yeah, it's that would be the guy that I think. I mean, he's a good player. He fits what Oklahoma likes. He's got the size, and he's out of Chaminade, which you take all day because you can reach your hand in one of the top high school programs in the country at that point. So I'm excited actually to go to the Florida trip this year. That's one of my favorite trips ever, is going to all the high schools in Florida. There's so much talent, and a lot of characters, and a lot of them end up in the portal. I don't know why. Somehow down the line, they always start and play wherever they go, but they'll end up in the portal and go somewhere else. So it's always good to keep that line of communication open. So,
there's in the transfer portal era, there is,
yeah.
Well, I'll put it this way: finishing second for a recruit is not as crushing a blow as it used to be.
Correct.
It's a blow, not as crushing of a blow as it once was.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one of those where you look at things and everybody gets mad when you miss out. But if Oklahoma is within striking distance, that relationship is forged. And the second that kid has something happen or they decide they don't like where they're at, you can always be right there to, catch them or get them on your campus and
Yeah.
see where it goes from there. And I think that's ultimately how things go. I have to ask you, what did you think of the comment by uh, Nebraska's head coach this week or today about the?
Oh, I mean, it was
He's
hilarious
spot
because
on, yeah, but
well,
I
it was
mean,
hilarious because I have so many friends from back home who are Nebraska fans, Brandon, and we keep up on a regular basis, especially throughout the football season. And I was having a conversation via text with one of them last week, and they were like, "Hey, look, the quarterback situation at Nebraska sucks, and until it changes, Nebraska's probably not getting much better. So, like, knowing what you know, realistically, what can Nebraska do to remedy their QB situation?" And I said, "Look, end of the day, if you really want a legit fix, you're going to have to spend big money in the transfer portal. That's the only way these days to get an immediate fix at your starting quarterback position." And then, of course, several days later, Matt Rule comes out and says in his press conference, "Oh, yeah, you got to spend at least $1 million to get a half decent quarterback in the portal these days." And Rule's just kind of saying what we already know to be true, right? We know some of the figures that have been thrown around for quarterbacks, whether recruits or transfers. And when you see a guy like Riley Leonard, for instance, who is probably going to be the most coveted commodity of this portal cycle at QB, he hits the transfer portal today, and everybody already knows where he's going. Everybody
yeah,
already knows, to the
yeah.
point where he had a do not contact tag on his portal entry. That is how certain he knows. How certain he is of where he's going. So again, it's all happening right there in front of you. Even if you can't see it, you just kind of have to connect the dots. Teams are spending huge sums of money to bring in quarterbacks via the portal, and in some cases, those guys are already bought and paid for before they hit the portal at all.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, free market. I understand that, and I totally get that line of thinking. But at the same time, there's got to be some regulation to it because that's not how NIL was designed. It
No,
wasn't designed for donors to funnel money through a collective to funnel money to a kid. And to that extent, there's even there's even programs that are funneling money through collectives and using the high school NIL as a way to get them on campus. It's illegal. You can do it. But what the hell are we doing now? Like, this is just wild. And I want all these kids to make their money and get their due diligence. At some point, they're going to end up being employees of the university. I think that's
that's
what
the
it's going to
direction
be.
we're headed. Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of inevitable.
Yeah. And when that takes place, there will literally be 60 college football teams at that point. Like, college football will die because the G5 programs can't, like, they would essentially become
Well,
junior
and like
colleges.
I saw the news earlier this week that Delaware is making the transition to the FBS. I'm like, what are we doing at this point? Legitimately, what are we doing? The fact that
They think they're
Delaware,
trying to survive.
well, I have no doubt that they're trying to survive, but even so, like, how does a program like Delaware, which is not even tip of the top of the FCS ranks, like if there's an FCS team that can reasonably make the transition to the FBS and be competitive, it is North Dakota State or South Dakota State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you have Delaware making the jump to the FBS ranks. Just like there's such an imbalance of power, and it's only going to get worse because of the TV deals and realignment and the ever shifting landscape. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and it's kind of the new normal, Brandon. Like there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Right? This is reality. This is what we got to deal with, and it's the hand that we've been dealt as reporters, as fans, as folks with a stake in college football. Let's talk about offensive line for a moment, because the Sooners, as you mentioned, are in the market for at least one offensive lineman. And some of the names that we've reported that they're in contact with, or at the very least interested in, are guys that are G5 or even FCS. And you have people that hop in there and go, why on earth? Why can't Bill Bedenbaugh recruit a high-end Power 5 transfer? And my rejoinder to that is, how many of those guys ever hit the transfer portal? Like, how often do you have a bona fide multi-year starter and a good one in the portal on the offensive line from the Power 5 ranks? It doesn't happen.
No.
At least not frequently. And when it does, more often than not, once again, those guys are bought and paid for. Bill Bedenbaugh in the last several years, off the top of my head, let's think about the P5 additions, the P5 transfers that he has brought in via the portal. Walter Rouse. How many guys were there in the portal at all last year at offensive line or any other position that had as much experience as Walter Rouse? That guy came to play for Bill Bedenbaugh at Oklahoma. McCade Mettauer, he has now started in excess of 50 career games at the Power 5 level. He came to play for Bill Bedenbaugh. Tyler Guyton, that one was kind of a flyer, man. He had not been a full year starter at TCU. He had played sporadically at tackle and sporadically at tight end. Sooners took a flyer on him. Now he's somebody that's getting early round NFL draft buzz. So Bill Bedenbaugh has been he has been able to land Power 5 transfers in the past, but those guys don't come around every single cycle. And so when you do see one of those guys hit the portal, okay, great. Like, obviously, OU, if it makes sense, if they like his tape, they're going to pursue him. But especially early on, you can't bank on those types of guys. You can't bank on a Walter Rouse with 40 career starts to his name jumping in the portal. You have to make sure you have your bases covered early on, even if these aren't the guys you end up pulling the trigger on. And so when you see OU kicking the tires with somebody like Easton Kilty from up at the University of North Dakota, trust me, like, they're not kicking the tires with him because there's no viable alternative and Bill Bedenbaugh is somehow handicapped or hamstrung as a portal recruiter. No, it's because the majority of offensive line transfers that hit the portal are going to be guys from those second and third tiers of college football, G5 and FCS, that have demonstrated consistent production and elite potential and are willing to bet on themselves. And that's why you often see those guys rack up a myriad of Power 5 offers. Because if given the choice, Brandon, like, let's say another guy with a resume similar to that of Tyler Guyton during his time at TCU hits the portal, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a guy that's played 10, 12 career games at the P5 level with a handful of starts and take your chances there? Or would you rather have a dude that's been a 2-3 year starter from the G5 or FCS ranks, has been an all-conference dude, and that you have P5 programs coast to coast that want in on?
I would rather have the guy that has starting potential, has proven been a starter, even though it's G5 and he has a lot of experience that all the P5 programs are looking at, because ultimately they see the production, but they also see that production isn't tapped out. And that means that they feel like there's another step or two that player can take. And again, Bill Bedenbaugh has killed it in the portal. He has. I mean, you can go back to RJ Proctor. You can go back to Wanya Morris, obviously Walter Rouse, like Chris Murray. There's so many names you can look at through the portal, and they've been not only contributors at Oklahoma, but helped Oklahoma win a lot of games. And in some cases, we're all conference. So, yeah, like,
those are the types of guys, Brandon. Like, those are generally the most coveted, most surefire bets in the portal at offensive line. Guys like Chris Murray and guys like McCade Matire, where if you reflect on their careers, though, you're like, okay, were they really that special? Maybe not, but they were consistent starters for multiple years. And you're not getting first round draft picks at offensive tackle in the transfer portal. You're not.
No, you're, I mean, I don't know that I could say you're not going to get that, because I think there's a world that happens because somebody's upset, or, I mean, we live in the NIL era where if somebody throws $2 million at an offensive tackle, that dude he's to that university. So, I mean, it's a different time. And, you look at, Spencer Brown, it's got what, 30 something starts and has been really good. I want to say, they said he's given up like 32 hurries and 8 sacks and like almost 400 pass attempts. That is a really good offensive tackle.
Yeah.
And you take Beatonbow's development to what that guy is already at, and the next step in the iteration of his career is an all-conference type of performance. Now, that's harder to do in the SEC, so whatever. But if you have your offensive tackles and it's Spencer Brown and, Jacob Sexton next year, and you're Oklahoma, you're happy about that. You've got Everett as your center, and or obviously Josh Bates, however you want to look at it. Or your guard is Caden, your left guard's Caden Green, your left tackle is Sexton, your center is Bates, your right guard's Everett, and your right tackle is Spencer Brown. That's a good starting lineup, no matter how you look at it. Now, I get, as far as experience goes, Brown, Sexton, Green, those are going to be your experienced guys. Yeah, Everett got some experience this year, and he played really well at App State as a freshman, but he got jumped a little bit. And I think Jake Taylor has a chance to have a really solid redshirt sophomore year. I do. I think
he's got a lot of potential.
He does. I think once he puts things together, and I know I've talked to people, there's a feeling that he has a chance to be that guy at the right guard. And so even if it's Jake Taylor, Everett, Green, Sexton, Brown, and we're just throwing that out there. We're not saying Brown 100% is going to be an Oklahoma Sooner, but I am going to throw another note on OU Insider about him here in just a little bit.
And I'll add this. There's another guy up at Michigan State, Gino Vandemark, who has announced that he is entering the transfer portal as well, and has a lot of interest in OU too. So
He does. But the problem is I talked to people before he got in the portal. I had somebody with former ties to Michigan State reach out to me and say, this person's going to get in the portal and you need to look at it. He really likes it. I know that Finley and Beanbo are aware of it. It's just they've got to try to make room for a guard. They're more looking for a tackle right now. And again, that's where it gets back to this number crunch. Yeah. It gets back to a number crunch. And that's where I think the fans have to understand that the days of being able to sign 50 guys and having 140 guys on your roster during that COVID time from like 2020 to 2022 last year, that's done. That's done. You got to crack that bad boy back down to 85.
Yeah. And I'll just be straight with all y'all. If you see an Oklahoma player hit the transfer portal this offseason, regardless of how big of a name it is in your eyes, odds are that guy's hitting the transfer portal because the OU staff encouraged him to be on his way and find an opportunity elsewhere. Trust the processing.
So there's going to be fans that are going to ask who he thinks get processed, and I'm never going to say that. Like, I don't think that is the right way to operate. I don't think throwing stuff out there and saying, well, I'm hearing this person might get processed or this person might do this or that or that. That is never how we're going to operate, because essentially at the end of the day, you're dealing with human beings. And if they haven't been told that and somebody just by happenstance leaked some of that out, that's not fair for the kid or their family. You know what I mean? Like it just, it's like Kiffin getting fired on the tarmac kind of deal. Everybody knew it was happening, but Kiffin, he lands and he's got his papers waiting on. That's not fair. That's not fair. And life's not fair, but when you're dealing with 17 to 23-year-old kids, I'd rather not go down that route. So you guys can figure it out. It's pretty easy to go look and say, this guy's a junior and senior and he's never touched the field. Chances are, if they're going to process, it's probably going to be this guy or this guy.
Yeah. And there may be guys that have contributed at Oklahoma that get pushed to the portal.
Yeah.
And that one might sting if you're a fan. You're like, oh man, that dude made some good plays during his time at Oklahoma. But again, like the coaching staff knows a lot of things about these individual situations that folks outside that building don't. And so as they make these judgments, as they try to figure out, okay, what's going to serve us best as we cobble together our roster for 2024, there's going to have to be some thinning of the crowd that's going to have to occur if you want to be able to accommodate 85 scholarship players, all of whom you are 100% confident in, to show up to practice every single day and not only try to get better, but make everybody else around them better.
No doubt. And I guess let's talk about the tight end front. Let's dive into that.
Okay, let's do it. Jalen Conyers.
Go. Do you really want me to go there?
Well, I mean, like that's where everybody's going to want us to go right off the bat.
Okay.
So we start talking tight ends. We got to start with Jalen Conyers.
Let's go there. I'm not going to kibosh the idea. How about that?
Okay,
but
that's fair.
I
think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm not going to kibosh it, but there's going to have to be some significant hoops to make it work. Can that happen? Of course. But when he left, the OU staff did not want him to go. So there were things that took place that it'll be way down the road before we ever get into reasons why, all that, the transfer. Because if everybody remembers, it was super shocking when he transferred to begin with, because everybody's talking about how great he was going to be. And look what he's done at Arizona State with no quarterback help. The dude has been freaking phenomenal. So, but I talked to people around him. He's open to the possibility of anything and everything right now. They just got in the portal. Everybody's going to point to NIL. And of course, that's probably going to play into this.
Sure.
No matter how you look at it.
He's arguably the best tight end to hit the portal in the last 3 years.
Correct. And so you look at it and you say, okay, one, he's looking at, and this is straight from these people around him, like directly, I don't want to say related, but correlated with him. It all has to line up between team and individual goals and what he's looking for before he heads off in the NFL. And that means development. That means winning a lot of games. That means him touching the ball, getting at least targets, all those type of things that matters to him as he finalizes his college football career. So could Oklahoma be the spot with Joe John Finley being a tight end coach and the co-OC be a good spot for him? Hell yes. But can Oklahoma make that work for reasons that are out of some people's control? We don't know yet. So the idea that he's going to get in the portal and all of a sudden he's going to be at Oklahoma, I guess that could happen. But I talked to multiple people today about it. Everybody said the same thing. It's going to take some work if that was to happen. So I don't know that Oklahoma has approached the idea completely just yet. And now that I say that, you watch come Friday or Saturday, he's transferring to Oklahoma. So, I mean, that's just be the luck, but that means that they've ironed everything out. So that would be great for Oklahoma. So I'm not going to kibosh the idea. It's just going to take. Go ahead. Because you have stuff on it too. So go ahead.
Well, yeah. And the only thing I would add, because there's not much to add to all of what you said. It's all 100% accurate. And I think a lot of it is known. by at least to an extent by folks that recall Jalen Conyers' brief tenure at Oklahoma. But if you're looking for another reason why you get some of those hoops, you're able to jump through some of those hoops and clear some of those hurdles, why it would make sense. He's really, really close and goes back a long, long way with Brennan Thompson.
Yeah, that's the
They're
other thing. They're
good
really
friends.
good friends. So it wouldn't make sense if they can make it work. If they can make it work, and if they can make it work, to have Jalen Conyers and Devon Mitchell and potential healthy Caden Helms as your 3 tight ends.
Well, and we were
That's a
having
that's a chef's kiss.
yeah, and we were
If you're
talking
Joe John.
today in the OU Insider staff text, and Brian Clinton brought something up as he was watching some of Seth Littrell's old offenses at North Texas, and he said, "Well, is Oklahoma going to bring back a true H-back? Because that was kind of a staple of Littrell's offenses back in the day." And Jalen Conyers, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that fits that H-back mold.
The dude played quarterback for Arizona State in the last 3 games. Like, what? What? He took snaps at quarterback. Like, come on. That is the epitome of what you want out of H-back. Like, versatility, right? That's what that is. It's basically a versatile tight end and fullback. And so that fits perfectly under that umbrella, if you will. So cornerback. Let's talk corner.
So yeah, and before we completely leave the tight end conversation, I will say Oklahoma has eyes on some other guys that have not yet announced intentions to enter the portal. So if and when those guys do hit the portal, we will keep you updated over at ouinsider.com. But again, until they either officially announce their intentions or jump in the portal, we don't make it a habit of throwing those guys' names out there out of respect for the player in the situation. So at corner, right? That was where you want to go next, is corner. Again, I toss it to our subscribers over at ouinsider.com last week. And here's the sum and substance of it. There is a corner that could potentially hit the portal. And again, we're using there's a lot of hypotheticals being thrown out right now, but on November 29th, there's just going to be a lot of that. Things will be a lot more definitive a week from now. But there is a corner that we know of that hypothetically, possibly could enter the transfer portal. It's a strong consideration. It is an ongoing discussion. And if he does, Oklahoma would be the likely landing spot. So I kind of provided some additional color to our subscribers over there to kind of give them some guidance as to who some viable guesses might be in that regard. But yeah, I'll just say this about that particular corner. He's a good one, a young one and a good one, and somebody with starting experience. And if he were to hit the portal, OU would be far from the only high NP5 program interested in him, but OU would most likely be the destination from what I'm told.
Interesting. What people are asking about Javonte Barnes hitting the portal, and then they said I would probably say I told y'all Barnes was going to hit the portal. So, or did he hit the portal? I mean, I don't know.
No, he has not hit the portal.
So
unless that happened in the last 5 minutes. And again, I'll say it, and I don't mind being wrong if I end up being wrong. I don't expect Javonte Barnes to portal out. I think he came to Oklahoma for the right reasons. I think he will stay for the right reasons. This past year was frustrating for him. It's frustrating for a lot of folks.
He's injured.
Saw some of his potential as a freshman and wanted to see a lot more of him. I know that I certainly fall in that camp. No doubt it was as frustrating for Javonte Barnes as anybody. But we've seen it in the past. He would be far from the first player at Oklahoma to come back from a frustrating year. I think about Marvin Mims' campaign that he enjoyed as a sophomore, where he got to the end of that season and he had 1 foot out the door. He was ready to go transfer. And that was when the coaching change happened. Brent Venables gets to town, new regime, everything kind of gets a facelift, and that was enough to keep Marv around. But Barnes is not the only guy who's hit some bumps in the road as a sophomore. Far from the first guy for which this has happened at Oklahoma. And I still have faith that this is a guy that's going to contribute at a high level for Oklahoma in the future. Now, he kind of does face an uphill battle to get the share of the workload that maybe he was once in line for, because Gavin Sawchuk has been exceptional over the final 4 games of the regular season. And you would expect nothing less in the bowl game, right? 4 straight performances of 100+ rushing yards. And regardless of who Oklahoma gets in the bowl, you're going to get a steady dose of Gavin Sawchuk once again. So,
yeah,
I think Barnes is kind of behind the 8 ball in that regard, because at this point, it's probably not a Barnes and Sawchuk type of conversation heading into 2024 the way it was, and heading into 2023, it's probably Sawchuk then Barnes now. But Javonte is still the same dude that found his way onto the field at the University of Oklahoma and played quite well as a true freshman at a very difficult position. And so I'm keeping the faith with regard to Barnes.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, if he enters the portal, he enters the portal. That means Oklahoma will go look for some running back out of the portal, which I think is a possibility anyways. So, look, the funny thing that you brought up Mims, I think the funniest thing, Oklahoma, I think, was playing Florida at that point, and Venables had just been hired.
Or no, wait, it was Oregon.
Was it Oregon?
It was against Oregon.
It was a home game. I'm walking down the steps with my oldest son.
Oh, you're talking basketball.
Basketball, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a home
Florida,
basketball. It was Florida, and I'm walking down the steps with my oldest kid because I'd taken him and the family to the game. And Marvin's walking by, and he like grabs me. He's like, "Dude, come here." And so we started talking. For a minute, I was like, "Are you leaving?" I mean, the rumors are out there that you're leaving. And straight up, coaching change kept him in Norman. And he said that straight up. I'm not going to go now. I'm going to listen to what they have to say, and I'm going to stay, most likely, because if the previous regime had stayed, he was out the door. He was gone. And I don't think he enjoyed, because he went from 2020 catching a ton of passes to 2021 just kind of running routes and just being out there. He felt like not doing anything. So that was really hard for him, and ultimately ended up being one of the best seasons. He dropped some touchdown passes. He would ultimately tell you he left a lot on the table with 3 or 4 touchdown passes dropped on long passes that probably would have been 50+ in 2022. But he still had a career year, 2nd round draft pick after amazing pro day, and he's killing it for my Denver Broncos. So more props to Marvin Mims on that. There's a lot of Dylan Gabriel rumors out there. We touched on this a little bit. Are you still thinking he's gonna go to the NFL? Are you gonna die on that hill, or are you gonna change her up?
I still think he goes to the NFL.
Okay.
I'll stand by that take.
Okay.
I could be completely off base, but again, I just look at this quarterback class that is to be, and how much need there is in the NFL for depth at that position, competent depth at that position. And I think this is as good a time as ever for Dylan Gabriel to make the jump to the pros. So ultimately, that's his decision. Like, what I see may not be what Dylan Gabriel sees, but I'm calling it like I see it.
So I talked to somebody today for a long time, and they said they think if they expect Dylan to stay in college. And they said the exact same thing that I've been saying for a while, because it makes sense. The guaranteed, God, man, like, Aaron, this fuzz is like driving me nuts. The guaranteed money that he gets from NIL. And if he was to transfer, I mean, Matt Rule literally just said $1 to $2 million for top tier quarterbacks. And despite the belief by some Oklahoma fans, guess what Dylan Gabriel is viewed as in the portal? A top tier quarterback.
Yeah, I was
probably because he is a top tier quarterback.
If he's
first team All Big 12.
if he were to get in the portal, how many other quarterbacks would you rather have than Dylan Gabriel? Like Riley Leonard? Okay, I guess I understand that. Cam Ward, maybe. That's got to be about the end of the list, right?
I mean,
I'll take Dylan Gabriel
there's
over
another
Max
quarterback in
Johnson.
Washington that there's buzz he might portal too, and not go to the NFL because he's a left-handed quarterback. And
does
if,
Penix have another year?
Supposedly, I don't
Holy
know.
smokes!
Feels like it wouldn't be. It feels like he wouldn't, right? But supposedly, I was told he does. So I don't know. I don't cover Washington, so I don't care. But if that dude gets in the portal, or a first overall potential first overall pick got in the portal, like that would be wild, right? Yeah, I threw that out there.
All right then.
Yo, remember back in 2021 when I said back in November that a certain quarterback was going to hit the portal, and then 2 months later he did, and I gave the exact date, and it happened. What if a number one overall pick, potential number one overall pick, who doesn't know what he's going to do right now, decided to portal someplace else? Would that not turn college football on its head?
It would.
I'm just throwing that out there right now because I think it would be. I would just sit back with my popcorn and just. The only problem is people will be like, "Hey, well, is he going to go back to Oklahoma?" No, not happening. So, but there will be some rumors. There will be rumors, but it'd be hilarious. It would be hilarious. Do you think I've heard DG if he was going to go in, if he was, and this is all hearsay at this point, it'd be more West Coast than Mississippi State, but
which makes sense. Like
yeah.
it makes sense. Easier trip for his family to come watch him play his final year. And that would be at that point his final year, any way you slice it.
Yeah. And would he be worth the Matt Rule stipend?
Dylan Gabriel in Lincoln, Nebraska. Oh man, that would be something. Again, given the current market for transfer quarterbacks, if Gabriel were to hit the portal, I do not question he would have a 7-figure valuation as far as NIL dollars.
Hey, so somebody said I would rage quit if Caleb Williams went to Bama or Georgia. I can tell you Bama's not going to happen, but if it happened to Georgia, that would be the least shocking thing to ever happen in college football. If he hit the portal, like, because you have to remember, at that point, Georgia was one of his final. It was Georgia, Oklahoma, LSU, and Clemson.
Was it? I recall his final three being OU, LSU, and Maryland.
Maryland was in there just as a favor.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that.
Like the true Final Four, like straight up. So remember, there were people crisscrossing to Georgia.
At that point, it's kind of over for the rest of college football, isn't it? Like nobody else has any hope of winning. National
dang,
title.
They might win a third in a row. If he did that, that'd be 4 guaranteed. 4.
Yeah, like you can lock that one up.
Yeah, this college football season sucks.
Never a doubt. Never a doubt. They'd probably be unanimous number one wire to wire.
We have just like caused our viewers to like start pulling their hair out profusely right now because just envisioning that happen. Anyways, all right. Before we go, let's talk about Eddie Pierre-Louis because
my goodness, man,
you broke that, and that the funny thing is like you broke that news or confirmed the news. I can't remember how that all went down. And then it got buried with all this transfer stuff. Like nobody cared after that. But that's a 4-star top 250 kid that Oklahoma leads for, and everybody's like,
I'm just done with it, Brent. I'm done with it. Like I'm not going to cover that recruitment anymore. I don't know what else can I say or do or write at this point that is going to remain current or accurate or reliable even for more than a day or two, because that thing has changed as the wind blows. And it's legitimately been one of the wackiest recruitments I have ever covered. And admittedly, I have not been in the game as long as you, so you've probably seen some stuff that I have not. But goodness gracious, man, I was exchanging texts with a source the other day down in Florida who I think put it well and said, "Look, it really just feels like he's trying to build the hype leading up to an announcement and already knows where he's going. He hasn't visited anywhere in 2 months, hasn't
No.
visited anywhere, and was
It
supposed to
feels
show
like
up to
he's known for a
Oklahoma
long time where he's going,
for
by the way.
yeah, again, like supposed to show up to Oklahoma for 2 different game days. Neither happened. It if
He
I
didn't
had
even
to
show up to UCF games either, and that's right
yeah,
down the
if I had
road.
to hazard a guess as to what's happening, it would be exactly that. Like he knows where he's going. He's just trying to play up the hype and the drama.
Yeah.
And so again, like if he knows where he's going, but nobody has a clue, like because if basically given that it's dragged out this long with so little certainty, it's very clear that he is telling multiple staffs what they want to hear. And when you got a kid telling multiple staffs exactly what they want to hear and giving them reason to feel good, how can you feel confident? How can you feel assured of anything? I just,
The weird part, though, the neutral people think it's Oklahoma still.
they do. And that's probably because um,
UCF.
he
Yeah.
stopped taking visits right about the time that Oklahoma surged into the lead. So I don't know, man. I've learned the hard way one too many times that you can never be too definitive about a kid who is giving good news and good vibes to several staffs all at the same time. So I'm just kind of resigned to whatever the outcome is. I guess I'm going to keep my prediction on OU because I have no ostensible reason to change it at this point, and we'll see which way this thing falls.
Yeah, I'm with you. I stopped caring a long time ago, but it's fodder right now as National Signing Day fast approaches. And I'll say this: the Oklahoma staff's going to hit the road on Friday, and I'm going to have some stops that they're going to take, and notes on stops they're going to take here pretty soon. On OU Insider,
Oh
I've been,
gosh,
yep.
that I just saw the chat. It really is a good comparison. Somebody said EPL is Tristan Lee.
Oh my God, don't.
I forgot about that one, but yep. I see it.
That I was so glad I was in Crested Butte when that took place. I was about to get on a lift when that happened. I stuck my phone in my pocket and I slithered away into obscurity for the next 24 hours because that dude straight lied to everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome times.
And just when you have a situation like this, again, I've gotten to the point where I've realized it makes sense to just kind of acknowledge, okay, you don't know for sure. Because I mean, it's happened so many times before. I would say most recently with Williams Winery, right? Where he's telling both staffs what they want to hear. And of course, like when we're reporting on that, Brandon, we're going to lean in the direction of believing our sources on the OU side. And so then you end up with egg on your face when the kid commits to the other school. So with EPL, I will freely acknowledge I don't know where that kid's committing. I felt confident in late September that it was going to be OU. I dropped the prediction at that point, and unless it becomes very apparent, very evident that he is committing elsewhere, I'm probably just going to ride it out with that prediction at this point.
Yeah. So do you want to know the other irony to that? Like they said, Tristan Lee, and I said I was in line at a lift in Crested Butte. Do you know where I'm going 6 days after, or five, or right the day after Christmas, 2 days after Christmas?
Crested Butte.
it's kind of, I mean, everything's kind of lining up for the old Tristan Lee redux, if you will. um, so before we get out of here, Parker, we're doing our 50% off, guys. Like it, we did a 75% off last week, and I think we had several hundreds of people sign up. So we're like, you know what? We're going to throw that back at y'all. We're doing another 50% off. So right now, OU Insider, 50% off. $49 gets you all the way through everything. Like you will get all the way through next year's college football season if you just sign up today for $49. That's a deal. That is a deal. And that means you get all of our information, so much stuff that we have not even talked about on here that is on OU Insider right now. And who knows? Who knows if there's going to be, y'all are asking about who's going to be the next defensive coordinator, all that type of stuff. Who knows if there's going to be openings later on down the line with all these coaching changes. These other staffs have to be filled somehow, some way. I expect the offensive staff to not move, but the defensive staff, you never know what could happen. I mean, you expect Bates to stay, Chavis to stay, Brandon Hall to stay, but there are things that could happen down the line. You know what I mean, Parker? So we will have all that covered for you. We will have National Signing Day, all the transfer portal stuff. Like we've been dropping transfer portal notes all day long on OU Insider. So it's worth the trip. It's worth the look. Go try us out. We would love to have you join the thousands and thousands of OU fans that are already on there. And we're doing chats. We're answering questions. We talk to you guys all day. Like we communicate. We try to be as open as possible. It's not just you all talking on the board. We join the banter all day, every day, and try to make it as fun as possible. Before we go, predict the bowl game.
Predict the bowl game destination?
Mm-hmm. Where are they going?
Alamo.
What day
San
is that
Antonio.
game? Is that the 28th, 29th still? 30th? Something like that?
I don't recall. Yeah, some it's in that general vicinity. But yeah, I think as anticlimactic as it will be, I think it's the Alamo Bowl. Okay.
I kind of agree. I think it's either the Alamo or the Cotton would be my pick. So one or the other, both pretty much in. One is a New Year's Six Bowl, obviously, but both are anticlimactic as far as travel goes for Oklahoma fans. So I think Oklahoma, Missouri in the Cotton Bowl would be an amazing game. It would be fun. Rev up the rivalry again. Like that would be fun. It'd be a fun little game. I don't know how much OU fans are gonna love in Oklahoma, Arizona Alamo Bowl. I don't think they're gonna be whoopty-doo over that. I think if somehow they can make USC able to do it, that would ramp up some interest from OU fans. But I can't see an Arizona game just making OU fans happy. I think the Alamo Bowl game in 2021 was awesome because you didn't know what was going to happen to CW. You had Bob Stoops coaching again. There was so many questions within the program, and it was Oregon. So that's a name, but I don't know. No offense to Arizona, but the longstanding college football hasn't exactly been, the Desert Swarm was. I mean, who was the linebacker for the Patriots that played on that team? He's an ESPN analyst now.
Teddy Bruschi.
Bruschi. Yeah. That was a long time ago, dude. A really long time ago. So anyways, all right, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider under the Visor YouTube Live. Again, if you're not signed up, OU Insiders where it's out. It's $9.99 a month, or you can get a whole year, $49. That could be one of your Christmas presents, or send it to one of your favorite OU fans within the family. You can gift it. So, hey, $49 $49.99, 50% off right now. Gets you all the way through the first season of the SEC. So that means if you sign up on November 29th, you get it till November 29th, 2024, or actually till November 30th, 2024. If you sign up tomorrow, you get the same way. It ends on December 1st at 5 p.m. After that, it goes back up to $99.95 to get the whole year. So come sign up, come join us. We would love to have you. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a wild off season. It's already started. The transfer portal hasn't even opened yet completely to where they can be contacted. So just wait. Just wait. So, all right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. Subscribe to this channel right here. Give us 5 stars on the podcast. For Parker Thune, for Kurt Watson, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.